Hello, welcome back. Day 14. Of course, we rested yesterday for day 13. We are talking about small things to savor and using some specimen cards. The page in front of you is a page that I had done as part of my 21 days of lockdown video series. And I remember this page gave me such joy, and it's just tiny things mounted on pieces of fabric, and it's tiny things. There's a bit of slow stitching, some charms. So tiny things sometimes in the grand scheme of things get lost unless you mount them or block them or frame them. So in this instance, I had just put them on little bright color fabric swatches. So you can do something like that. You can just frame. So these are little wood frames, but this is something that you can very easily cut out of cardboard. You don't have to go the full specimen card route, but it is quite a popular themey, trendy thing at the moment. There are very many YouTube tutorials. The YouTube tutorial that I found most useful and easiest to follow is by Shanuki, Shanuki, and she is South African, so support a fellow South African. So let's have a look at making some specimen cardy memory things for us to keep track of small things. I'm going to say what bothers me, but it's not a bother. With a specimen card, you need something that's double-sided, because it's basically a window with acetate or like a clear plastic inside. So if you flip the thing, it needs to look the same on either side. But if you don't have something that is double-sided, or you can't make a copy of it or whatever, just make it a single-sided specimen card. It can tuck in if you flip it over, as long as it's neat. I think that's fine, actually. So some of the things you can use, this is like a printed, that's that acetate element thing we dealt with the other day, so that'll work. You get stickers. These are actual stickers. Like a little lace fragment is double-sided. I think stamps, because they often come in pairs. Also just a nice piece of double-sided paper, if there's something that you like on the double-sided paper, or stamp something, stamp a design, or at a pinch maybe like a very flat charm can work. Let's have a look. Like this gear, it's a metal, but it's quite flat. So in its most simple form, a specimen card, anything that is flat, double-sided, if you would like that look, that you can wedge between two pieces of plastic, acetate, transparency. Vellum gives a slightly frostier look. And when I'm talking about plastic, I'm talking like the little bags that things come in. They're perfect to reuse. Only pitfalls is if you use glue, that the glue squishes out and becomes visible in the window. So double-sided tape is maybe easier. Or if you have fingerprints on your clear material. So just give it a buff before you seal it up. I'm using one of the plainer backgrounds from the paper pack, but you can really use any paper. You can also make your own paper with some inks or paint or print or stamp, as plain as you want it, or as decorated if you want it. Generally with specimen cards, they are for natural things, so it would be a pressed butterfly or an insect or a leaf or something, and then the frame would follow that. But if, for example, you're doing a specimen card of like a small photo, like a passport photo, you can go as bright as you want. It's almost like you see, for those that have Instax, like the little instant cameras, those little frame stickers and things that they sell will also work. Also, if you have slides from grannies or grandpas or your own travels, those work really well. I've used them because the whole mechanism is that you just take the slide bit out. You do get dies that cut specimen cards, or you can use, if you have nesting dies, like a rectangle and a square. Some of the tutorials also show printables, free printables, that shows the rectangle and another rectangle, and you cut it and then somehow you have to line them up. But for that, I think having the fold that you just then cut long things, that there's nothing to line up because you're basically just gluing shut a flap, is better. I think a nice idea for these specimen cards today is also just having a word in each, and that you can do on a strip of paper and have the same word on both sides, or even different words on both sides. Maybe words that you want to remember of the season or carry forward. Peace, family, love, gift, joy, those sort of things. It adds the reason for doing it in a junk journal. It adds interest because it's see-through. It adds a different shape. It adds texture. So it's just all of those. It adds interest. I can stop there. You do need an aperture. Is that the very smart word? You can measure. And then you can keep your frames as wide or as narrow as you want it. Just don't keep your frame narrower than what your double-sided tape is, or be careful with glue seepage. These cards are 6 across, and it's common on specimen cards, like original ones, that you have like a foot, a bottom where you put notes and things where you found the specimen. Something like 2 centimeters would be good. And then you need to trace and cut a square. What I did like about the Shinuki video, she uses an acrylic stamping block to trace. So if you've got a square, you can trace. I've got this ruler which looks quite good actually in terms of the width. So I'm just going to trace around and then cut. You're going to have to cut with an X-Acto knife because it's difficult to get the square. You can punch if you've got a square punch, or you can do, I've also seen circle specimen cards. Those are also quite nice, so don't only think straight lines. You can see this is a square punch, and then I've just punched the hole. This is fine, you can actually just cut it there. There, perfect. So otherwise you would need to cut with your knife. With punches like this, you're limited by the feed depth, can I call it that? Because like this one, and then I'm just guessing if it's center. I can't get it any higher, but you do get those punches that you position all over, but I don't have those. But you also get a knife that you can cut with. This is plastic, like a plastic bag that something came in. It's sort of the density of school plastic wrapping. So it's really, don't freak out if you don't. The very professional hard ones are done with the acetate or the transparencies. What makes them nice is when you move them, you get like that popping sound. There's a sound, but the plastic ones work fine. And then you need to position your specimen or whatever small thing you have. I'm just going to use a little bit of glue, and the glue generally dries clear, so then that's fine. So that's a super rudimentary card. Do you see what I mean about the glue seepage? It'll dry clear, but I mean it's there, so you can also sort of shove it out of sight while it's still wet, but be careful when you are mounting. Glue is really the issue. And the second thing is you need to make sure your specimen is quite well mounted in terms of being center and everything. And that's a cute little addition. It can be a dangle. You can put a hole in a little tuck spot, anything like that. You can mount your journaling if it's a nice quote. Why not? I try and keep all my parts with a flap because then it's less things that you need to line up. So just also try and do that. So the paper's got a flap and the actual plastic has a flap. And then keep in mind, I mean, a common is that the thing's at the top and there's writing at the bottom. But if it works better for you to flip it the other way around, do that. But just keep your specimen placement in mind then. This is one with a, it's very difficult to film the shiny plastic, with a sticker. So really just a way for you to capture smaller things in a novel way. So on a page I've just pinned this. You can still see both sides, but something like this with a nice word in would be a very nice reminder on a page of something that you must maybe pay attention to or focus on. If you don't want to make it double-sided, this for example is a date, a way to capture the date and some journaling, then just cut the hole in the one side and decorate the back perhaps if you don't have a double-sided page. And then this can be a nice little journaling card. So it's a journaling card with a difference because you can journal at the back because there's no aperture. So it's something, it's a novelty element to play around with. And then this is also a nice idea. This is, you can see my hand, this is vellum. And the vellum is automatically double-sided, but then there's no acetate or anything needed. So it's just you framing something that's pretty and it's a different texture. And then you can of course decorate the frame. So this has now got the vellum. Picture, anything like that. So just a cute little something. I'm going to add some of these on my page now, so when you are busy making them, just remember they flip over, that your things on the inside don't end up upside down. I think the specimen cards definitely lend themselves to distressing, and don't be like me and forget to distress the inside before you glue it shut. Do you see that that tiny word would have meant nothing on the page, but now it's quite visible because it's been your eyes being drawn to it. I added some sequins, almost like a shaker box, but it's entirely up to you whether you would want to go to that trouble. And then for me, for using these, I would definitely actually just paper clip them onto a page as an element. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could make it so that what's at the back is also still nice to look at. That's all I have for you today. Nothing too draining, can we say that? Tomorrow is day 15 and we're talking about nostalgia. And we're doing some packing tape transfers. So if you've got clear packing tape, the broad sellotape that you wrap boxes and things with, please keep that handy. And any picture from a magazine or an old book or anything like that, and some water. That's all we need to do some packing tape transfers.